Okay. Okay, so this is, a year ago I was asked by Mark if I would do a little bit of research into his product. And the way this came about was his booth was next to my booth last year at this event. And his product started talking to me. So I knew there was a quantum field there. And I'm like, really, I don't need anything else on my plate. I'm super busy. I really don't want to do this. I mean, I'm work full-time, I'm in school full-time, I do this full-time, and I'm like, I don't need this. But when you're called, you're called. And so a year ago, I started a clinical study with the minerals. And this is why I started. I love to feed evolutionary appropriate food to animals. That's why my book is called The Evolutionary Feeding of Pets, because it's one, what they evolved to eat, and two, it's evolutionary because we're all thinking they still need dry kibble. But if animals are left to their own devices, what are they going to eat in nature? Because they know better than we know what they need. And when an animal, especially a carnivore or an omnivore, so I did some research, okay, takes down a kill, the first thing they eat is the ingesta. And that ingesta has all the digestive enzymes, all the probiotics, all the trace minerals and vitamins, and has pre-digested everything, including essential fatty acids. Thank you. And because of that, that is missing in their diet. And so for years, I've been trying to figure out how could I bottle ingesta? You know, green tripe's got a little bit of ingesta on it, but it's not what we really need, you know, and I'm not gonna release rabbits in the backyard for my animals to go kill. And you met Sophie, she's not going to. She'd wait for me to do it. So I don't have that in me to do, but I needed these animals to get one of the most important parts of their diet. And they eat it first because the same reason you should drink your juice by itself. So it's absorbed first. So I find this product that's fermenting and it has minerals in it and it's green and it has all of this chlorophyll in it. And I'm like, this is a great product. So Mark and I have a little bit of a conversation and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to start it with in a few places. And the results have been really, really, really beautiful, especially to anything that the root cause is inflammation. Now, how many places do we have inflammation as kind of our primary underlining insider? A lot. And what it has done for especially chronic skin disease, and I wasn't able to get the pictures in because I didn't get them in time. But I've had a lot of dogs that we've been working with skin, and I do believe that diet makes all the difference. But not if they can't absorb it. Not if they have they don't have the extra ingredients that they need. So let me tell you what this means. Okay, so everybody knows who I am in all my chicken soup behind my name. Okay, we've done these. So, you know, this will be on the video, it's been posted. And I want to start with this quote from Taoism, because to me, the roots of Chinese medicine and in Taoism, it tells us how we are supposed to behave as a biological system, which means we are one biological system. And we are just parts of one system. And if we all work homeostatically in harmony, then we thrive. And do you know what we are? We're a city of cells, all of which are separate entities working together symbiotically. Like biology figured it out. Our neocortex, it's neo, meaning new, hasn't figured it out well, right? We need to live in harmony. We need to live in harmony with this planet, which means we should change a few things that we do. But the way that things are put together naturally in biology, and I actually teach my biology course through Taoism. My students love it. And we have to realize that we have to come together and that the biological system must be alive. And I've been talking about this all week. It must still have the quantum field. That's how we are designed to operate with this planet. And I want you to think of this planet as one entity. And we're just a cell. And we all should be living together. So that's what having the closest I've ever found to Ingesta in a bottle, and yeah, it still smells a little, but it doesn't smell as bad as Ingesta I was trying to bottle, okay? And in a little bit, I'm gonna have Dr. Jin come up because she is actually, we're all in school. So she's also in school, and she's also my professor and a dear friend, and she's studying alchemy. And this weekend, in those studies of really bringing together beautiful, symbiotic, harmonious products through alchemy, she studied ferments. And so I gave her some of these products, and I'm going to have her talk about why fermentation is so important. But think about it, it's all together. So I started this product in these animals, and the outcome has been beautiful. Number one, I have animals that have severe anxiety, and there was, and they're owned by trainers, and we have minimized the anxiety. I have animals that have come in with severe skin disease that I haven't even fixed yet, and I don't want to put them on the Western medicine. And this product has made a huge difference because guess what? They're just mineral deficient. They're just amino acid deficient. They're deficient in the raw materials that they're meant to get as a biological system if we got out of the way and they went out and did their hunting the way it was meant to be. So in the Tao Te Ching, it says the work is done, but how no one can see. 'Tis this that makes the power not cease to be. And, I have a lot of degrees, and I do like to know how and why, but the number one thing I've evolved after 40 years in this industry is I don't need to know. I just know it's possible. And that biology, nature has figured this out. The quantum field knows what it's doing better than I do. So therefore, the sage manages affairs without doing anything. And this afternoon, we'll talk about Pooh Bear, because he really epitomizes this. He gets all these things done, but he doesn't really think about how he's going to do them. The reason why heaven and earth are able to endure and continue thus long is because they do not live of or for themselves. This is how they are able to continue and endure. The Tao is all things. And if we really want to look at our microbiome, the inhabitants of our gut, that is so important to our health, and we're finally getting more knowledge of that. In naturopathic medicine, we've known this for many, many years, but we finally are getting there. How important that environment, which is what a biome is to our health, and it's symbiotic. They appreciate having a home, and so what do? They give to us, as long as it's healthy. So that's what we're talking about here. So root disease. The microbiome is crucial to health, period. And how do we get our microbiome? Through eating food that has a microbiome. appropriately. Biologically active. There are so many supplements out there that are never absorbed, are never integrated into our body, are never going to do what we're taking them for, except to really help the septic system. And so you have to have a quantum field added to your supplements. It must be there. So my clinical research after a year was being as careful to add only one new product, which was this product, to their protocol. So I would change nothing and add only this protocol, and then get feedback from the client. So here's where we are, we're a 2, and then we're a 7, okay? That was where I started the clinical research. I did not start looking at animals and taking them apart. And then I would also do blood tests to make sure we weren't having any side effects to the mineral itself, okay? And thus far, we've gotten really good results. So I'm gonna give you a few overviews of where those results came. First is dermatological. So your skin is an organ of detoxification. And our animals are toxic because we live in a toxic world, and the earth is toxic, and they're eating toxic food. And because of that, we are able to give them back a healthy microbiome, and all the minerals, amino acids, the ferments, we're feeding it, it's alive, that they start to be able to have the equipment, okay? The minerals and the vitamins run our enzyme systems. And so all of a sudden, whatever I was doing worked because I gave them the raw materials. So if you're gonna build a house, okay, and you've laid a foundation, and it's now time to build the rest of the house, and all the lumber arrives, and the workmen arrive, but there's no nails, how far are you gonna get? You're not gonna get anywhere. So think of the nails as your minerals. Think of your workers as your vitamins. Your lumber as your amino acids. So if they don't all arrive together, nothing gets done, right? So we have to take this in as a whole food, as a biologically active food. So skin disease is my primary change that I'm seeing, and this is just oral. I'm not using it topical, and I use it as a soak. So it's really good at alleviating the itch and the inflammation in a soak. And it will depend on the animal, whether or not they get it just orally or if they get it as a soak. And the difference is in one individual, I wanted to get the picture here. I've been working with this dog for many years. And when he first came in, his skin was melting off. It was so severe. It was really a vasculitis. And pieces of his skin would just like slough off. And he was like in excruciating pain. And we got it back to where he didn't do any sloughing, but his skin was still kind of leathery from all that scarring. And there was no fur. So he never had that regrow. And then I put him on this, and he's fully furred, and his skin isn't leather. And it's taken a year. I mean, guys, this is not overnight. But even I didn't expect it. He just came in, and I thought, well, why not? Let's try it, right? So inflammation as a cause, where's inflammation going to start? It's going to start with not having the vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes in our system that allow us to counter inflammation. Inflammation is a normal defense mechanism in our body. It's just that we've run out of the raw materials to stop the fire. So our firemen aren't working. And again, you come in here with this fermenting chlorophyll, and you're able to start putting these fires out. And then I always say inflammation is the start of these other diseases. So if a disease ends in the word itis, all that means is that it's inflammation of the tissue. That's it. We use fancy words that really don't say much sometimes. So arthritis, pancreatitis, hepatitis, okay? Itis just means inflammation. So if you look at these cells under a microscope, pathologically, they look inflamed. And therefore, we can treat the inflammation at a root level and make a difference. Our body's designed to do this on its own. Like, our body's pretty smart. A biological system would not be on this planet as long as it's been here. And that's before they had humans, right? It wouldn't be here if it didn't have these abilities, these programs to counter inflammation. But the more and more toxic we get, the more inflammation we have to combat, the more we use those raw materials, and then we run out of them. So this is the ingesta of a kill, and that's how important it is to an evolutionary diet, and this is what I can give them. And it doesn't matter if they're herbivore, omnivore, or carnivore, they need this because they're not getting it in their diet. My horses eat hay. They don't go out and eat off grass, so they're not getting it. Except, of course, they get this. And one of my horses had this horrible skin rash that showed up, and I sent over a bottle of this and told my trainer, this is what I want you to do. He's like, this is really? And I said, you don't know me by now? And he's like, okay. And then he calls me back and goes, yeah, it's all gone. I said, you just had a bad batch of hay and they're running out of the nutrients they need. He goes, yeah, you're right. That was. We had a run on some hay and we weren't able to get as good a hay as we wanted. And I'm like, well, there you are. Okay, so we just gave it back to them. But inflammation is going to lead to other chronic diseases. And then I believe really strongly that this is a boost to any other supplement you're taking because it's going to help you absorb those other supplements. So if you're taking supplements that are not rich in a quantum field, you're probably not getting anything. And one of the ways to make sure you put your quantum field back in is to make sure you never take the fatty acids out of it and the essential oils out of it. So you want to make sure that you're collecting it all. And one of the ways to do so is to ferment it. So in the human arena, the number one thing that I'm finding is a decrease in inflammation and pain, an increase in mental ability. We have a lot of brain fog, and that has changed significantly. Because once I put the animals on this, then my clients are going, how do I get it? And I'm calling Mark going, how do they get it, right? So I look at this and I go, dull hair, alopecia, which means hair loss, okay, dry, devitalized skin, red skin is telling you that the inside of the body doesn't have what it needs. And your microbiome is responsible for 80% of your immune system. So how important is it for you to pay some attention to it? Very. So, Marcella, can you come up and give of your wisdom, which is intense, okay, of the importance of being able to assimilate our minerals? Because otherwise, guys, all you're doing is feeding the septic tank, and it doesn't need it, okay? It's not something that's gonna benefit us. So Marcella's gonna talk, and then I'm gonna call Dr. Jen up. She's gonna talk about ferments, and I hope this has been informative.
I'm on. So I just have what I can say is just in a couple of minutes, but when I went to school for nutrition, I was taught that everything in the human body comes down to a mineral or a vitamin deficiency. And I'm going to share with you very few people today are vitamin deficient. We get in ruts with our food. And if I were to live with all of you for a couple of months, you would be eating the same thing all the time. And then some of you go to nice restaurants and they're your favorite restaurants. And what do you do when you go to that restaurant? You order the same thing you always order. So in school with nutrition, I was taught that variety is everything. And the greatest thing that you can do is eat a little something that you haven't eaten before, because you don't need a lot of trace minerals, but guess what? You have to have minerals, trace minerals in our body. I studied a lot with Bernard Jensen, the late Bernard Jensen, and he's a master iridologist, but he wrote over 100 books on nutrition. And there's a book that he wrote called The Chemistry of Man, where you can actually break down every mineral in the human body to what disease or what symptoms are going to show up. Why do we masticate? Why do we eat our food, chew our food? Oh, you guys are funny. You thought I said something else. Masticate is chew your food, okay? So we have to chew our food 35 to 50 times. And today, everything we do is so fast. We chew our food to liquefy that food so that actually it gets into the intestine and gets into the places that it needs to get to. Variety is going to be everything, but the truth of it is not in one meal. We eat way too much food in one meal of variety. You ever heard of a mono diet, eating one thing? That could be the greatest thing that you could do one day a week, or a liquid diet one day a week. Gary always said to give your body a rest one day a week, and you would end up fasting for over 40 days in a year. And Gary fasted, water fasted every year for 40 days. And that's where he felt he got inspired spiritually with God with some of the supplements that we have in Young Living today. I am a big believer for minerals. I believe in Young Living that it is a sleeper product. And no one talks about it because guess what? Minerals don't taste good. Mark, do your minerals taste good? No. But I will tell you this, it's an acquired taste. It's a sleeper product, but you have to have minerals to sustain your life. So this is one of the greatest things that you look at in supplementation of what we're doing today. So I'm a real believer in minerals. Thank you.
So I just couldn't not let her talk, right? And what I will do is I will give them a variety of choices, and then I let them self-select. And they may not always select the same. So those of you who have horses, right, you can put out different salt licks. That's why. And do your horses know what they're looking for? And the deer that come in, right? They actually know. Their system knows. They can seek out what they need. So why not give it to them? And then they'll make those choices. And I'm going to tell you, with anything I prescribe, if they're running the other way, I did it wrong. Because their body knows. Biological systems recognize biological systems as long as they're alive. If not, it's just a dead piece of stuff, you know, and that's like licking a rock. And in horses, you can put this stuff right on the salt lick if you want. I like to steam it into the hay. Okay, give it that way. Most of the animals come screaming for it because it's been missing in their diet. And luckily, they don't mind the taste of any kind of minerals. In fact, it's been missing in their diet, so they really don't mind. So right now, the buzz is about ferments. And so I want to bring up Dr. Jin. And, you know, why not take it in one supplement, but why not start looking at what's missing that's crucial to our diets? Like, this is important. It must be in our diet. And if they're not, how do we get them back in our diet? So we had a whole class on fermenting in my Chinese medicine course. And Dr. Jin now in school, I think that's what we do once we start learning this. We just keep learning and we never find that we've learned it all. So she just had a course in fermenting from an alchemy standpoint, from the perspective that's been lost in Chinese medicine that is really in the classics, which is that Taoist principle of harmony and oneness. Come on up. So please welcome Dr. Jin.
You. First of all, I have to thank Nancy for inviting me here, because this is awesome, because I didn't know what I was coming here for today. I knew I was going to talk about fermentation, but I did not know it was a Young Living event for animal. I'm going to talk about fermentation based on a human consumption, okay, because I really don't know much about animal health. But I've been giving my cats some fermented stuff. So, and I have a cat who is 18 years old, Mei Mei, and she hops like a kitten. Okay, so I don't think she's gonna leave me anytime soon. I expect her to live till like 35 years old. So I would like to also thank Mark, because he actually gave me inspiration to start this conversation. When we age, a lot of people would think that when we age, we naturally would be painful, right? Every time I have clients who always say, oh, you know what, I have pain because I'm old. I can't sleep. I can't function like when I was younger because I'm old. I would like to advise everybody to throw that mindset out, because this is not a healthy mindset. You don't have to be old to be old. You can be old, okay, old when you're 20 years old. It doesn't matter. I have seen my clients who were in their 90s and they act like someone who is in their 20s. Well, just like Mark, okay? I'm not gonna reveal your age, Mark, don't worry. He looks like he's in his 50s, actually. He looks pretty young, but he's way past 50. So this is the first time I met Mark today, but I have known about his product a long time ago. You know, how many months ago? I think a year ago you told me about, yeah. Fermentation is a big, huge conversation. I can tell you so much, but today I know that we have time limitation. Growing up in an Asian family, we are very familiar with fermented food because it's just in our culture, okay? The Koreans, Japanese, and Chinese, I'm actually native Chinese from Malaysia. The Chinese, Koreans, and Japanese, they already have been eating fermented food from the eons. So this is nothing new to us. But how does it actually work in our system is another question, right? So most people, if you ask them, they don't know how it works. So back to Mark, if you're aging, you don't have to look that you're aging. You don't have to feel that you're aging. You can just age as a number. You don't have to show that you're actually aging. So it's a good conversation that, you know, we can talk about his product. I mean, if I come here to talk about his product, I can just go for hours and hours. But no, I'm not. Sorry, Mark, I'm not going to talk about our product today yet. So growing up, we're very familiar with fermented food. I'm sure you guys are familiar with miso soup. You know miso, right? You know, you're familiar with natto, right? Natto, you know natto? You know the soybean, fermented soybean that if you pick it up with your chopstick, it's like sticky and slimy. Have you seen that before? Yeah, you can get it in Asian market. I'm sure you're familiar with the Asian cooking we call fish sauce. You guys familiar with that? Yeah. Sauerkraut, kimchi, I call it Korean sauerkraut. You know that what it is, right? Everybody knows what it is. Kombucha, you know what it is, right? Jun, you know what it is. So I can tell you now, in our modern diet, fermented food is a missing link. big time, especially in the Western world, okay? I mean, I'm sure your ancestors have been doing fermented stuff, you know, at least brewing ale, brewing beer, and you guys know about fermentation. But it's very strange that nobody actually incorporate that in the eating routine. I don't know why. Maybe because fermentation takes time. Many people don't put time into their food anymore. It's like I'm really hoping that people here would start eating more fermented food, especially vegans and vegetarians. As you know, a lot of the nutrients that we cannot get from plant only come from meat. You know that, right? We can't get everything from plant-based diet. If you only eat plant-based diet without fermentation, you're due to be very malnourished as you get older. I mean, you know, malnourishment actually is a chronic problem. It's not like, oh, okay, today I don't eat this, tomorrow I'm malnourished right away. No, it doesn't work that way. It actually takes time. Over the course, you become very, very malnourished. That's why I always tell my clients who are vegans or vegetarians, I said, fine, if you believe that you don't want to eat meat ever, no problem, but you have to eat fermented food. And I have clients that say, oh my God, fermented food, they smell. I mean, that's the natural smell from the microbes when you ferment, right? It's a very acquired taste. The reason why I mentioned that because people here, they don't know how to eat vegetarian food or eat vegan diet. They think that being vegan or vegetarian, they just don't eat meat. Or they don't eat eggs. It doesn't work like that. You have to incorporate a lot of food, many kinds of colors, every single day, variety of food. Like just now, is it Marcella? Marcella talks about the mono diet, right? A lot of them are mono diet, eating the mono diet. And a lot of them don't eat really healthy food. But if you eat vegan or vegetarian food and you incorporate fermented food in your diet, you would not be malnourished, at least not that fast, okay? At least, let's say if the chance of getting malnourished would be 100, okay, without eating fermented food in your vegan or vegetarian diet, maybe if you eat fermented food, incorporate fermented food in your diet, maybe it will bring down to maybe chance of malnourishment would be like maybe 20 or 30%, which is really cool. The reason why we have to eat fermented food because fermented food can help you with a lot of ailments, let alone anti-aging and all these things. I'm sure nobody likes to age, right? Nobody likes to age. We don't want to see gray hair and wrinkles and all that, right? Or saggy, muscles and all that, right? You know what I'm talking about. So fermented food actually is a really strong antioxidant. Yeah, you can buy antioxidant in a bottle, but why don't you just eat the natural food instead of in the bottle? You don't want to take pills or capsules or, powder, drinks. You want to eat the real food that is fermented. And also in Chinese medicine, fermented food, guess what it does? It actually takes away dampness. You know what it is? Anybody are familiar with TCM, traditional Chinese medicine concept? Yeah, okay. So dampness means too much fluid in your body, mucus, like glue. As long as your body has high in glue, you're going to glue up to a lot of those pathogens, okay? That's why when there's I'm not necessarily COVID-19 per se, whenever there's an epidemic going on, okay, the people who have dampness in their body, dampness, dampness, glue, okay? It can be dampness or phlegm, okay? Phlegm is the more, like a more dense, like a denser consistency. As long as you have dampness in your body, you're gonna glue up to anything that's going on out there. Now, food that creates dampness would be dairy products, all dairy products, okay, especially cow products, sweet things, candy bars and cakes and all, baked goods, especially baked with wheat. And that's another topic about wheat being GMO and all that nowadays. Even though non-GMO natural wheat still create dampness, that's just the nature of the food. What else creates dampness? Beer, lots and lots of dampness. That's why they say beer belly, right? All the stuff that in the belly is all dampness. Okay, so fermented food actually can reduce dampness in your body. And what does it mean? It can help you to lose weight healthily. And it can also prevent weight gain during menopausal age or andropausal age for men, right? So as we get older, we gain more weight because of hormonal imbalance. Now, TCM, we don't talk about hormones. When you go to a TCM practitioner, they will never ever talk about hormonal imbalance, okay? They'll just mention it as a supplemental inflammation. But we don't talk about hormones per se. We actually build on the foundation of your qi and your blood. Qi means energy, you guys know that. And hence, the whole body is like a well-oiled machine. It works very well. We don't use hormones to treat hormones. If you're hormonally imbalanced, you don't just take external hormone to replenish your body, because it doesn't work that way. Because what happens when you don't take the hormone anymore? Your body is actually aging. You just don't know. You might feel better when you take the external hormones, be it natural or synthetic, I don't care. The only way to treat your problem is to go internally and fix this machine. So fermented food comes in to working. That helps with you to reduce dampness, balance out your hormones. So as you age, when you're 80 years old, people thought that you're 40, okay? Well, not that exaggerating, but it could be done. So, so in Chinese medicine, fermented food reduce dampness, strengthen your qi. Now, what is qi actually? But there's so many kinds of qi. Qi, if your qi is not strong, okay, that is your foundation. That is your immune system. We don't call immune. In TCM, we don't use the word immune. We call it strong, positive qi. And what else? For example, teachers who teach in school, right? You know, kids, I call it germs carrier. They always know that. And when one kid is sick, everybody gets sick, right? This is like we call it the norm. It's common, but it's not normal. Something that is common doesn't mean it's normal, okay? Or it's just because all the teacher got in contact with sick kids, they get sick. This is normal. No, it's not normal. It's common. It's not normal. Now, teachers who always come across kids, if her immune system is not strong, no matter how many layers of mask she slapped on her face, it's not going to do anything. So you might as well just strengthen your foundation, eat the best food that you can get, and be healthy. When you're flying, you know, everybody knows, right? I don't like flying, actually. I can just smell the pathogen in the air. I don't know whether it's because I'm paranoid or what, but I can just smell pathogens in the air, in the airplane. But because I know that I will not get sick easily, I eat a lot of fermented food. Just now, Nancy told me that I'm going through an apprenticeship with my teacher in Utah. I have a practice in Utah, actually. I just started. He is an alchemist. So I just took his weekend classes, which so coincidentally, which is not coincidental. This past weekend, we had a fermentation class. Okay, we went through how to do beer, how to do mead, how to do gin. So it's perfect. I know we have limited time, right? So I can't tell you much about it. You can talk to me in private time later on. I'd like to meet some of you guys. So what we learned is that fermentation, when you start to ferment, anybody have done fermented food before? Okay. So you know that when you first started to ferment your food, right? Okay, just take a good example, mead. You guys know what mead is, right? A lot of people don't know mead is, you know why? Because it's good alcohol, like good alcohol to a certain degree, okay? Don't go home and get drunk with mead. So for mead, M-E-A-D, is basically honey wine, fermented honey wine. The Vikings drank that, you know that, right? Mead is like a prebiotic and probiotic. It's actually strengthened. Now, in Western way of thinking, when your gut health is good, your immune is good, right? Because you know what I'm talking about. But in Chinese medicine, we say our zheng qi, okay, our positive qi. Zheng means positive. When you eat fermented food, it feeds your gut microbes, okay? And then what happened? They will increase very, very high frequency in your system. Hence, you have very, very good positive qi. So when you make meat, right? When it starts to ferment, you see a layer of mold-like stuff on top floating. Okay, my teacher said, if you see black mold or green, blue mold, toss it out because it's all bad. If you see cream color or light yellow mold, that's good. You need to stir it back in, okay, to let it ferment even more. So it's just really easy. Honey, water, That's it. You don't even have to add sugar because you put honey anyway. We call it wild yeast. Wild yeast means what? Do you know, anybody knows about wild yeast? Wild yeast? When you ferment something, okay, if you are relying from the yeast from the ether, from the environment, that's called wild yeast. Versus if you put something, when you make bread, okay, you have to put dry yeast in it, right? You can put yeast. That's not wild yeast. That's yeast that you added in purposely. When you make meat, you can use wild yeast. Now, what is the difference between doing those two? Wild yeast will take longer, much longer time. If you add yeast in it, it's much faster. But wild yeast, of course, is better because who doesn't like wild harvested products, right? I like wild harvested product. I don't like farm raised. Okay. So when you make meat, the layer that comes out on top, that is the good stuff. Don't think that your whole thing is moldy. No. It's only bad if it's black or green blue. Okay. When you see black or green blue, throw it out. If you see cream color, light yellow or white, that's good. You're supposed to stir it back in. Now that when you drink the meat, for example, okay, then it goes into your gut, it actually feeds your bacteria in the gut, good bacteria, and balance out the good and bad bacteria in your gut. So I'm not going to go into too much of how bad bacteria, good bacteria ratio in your intestine, what kind of symptom, and you know what I'm talking about. So in conclusion, fermented food can do anti-aging, can balance out your metabolize your cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol is actually in Western medicine, right? It's cholesterol. In Chinese medicine, what is cholesterol? It's dampness, mucus. That's why some people have high cholesterol because they have high in dampness. They don't have to be very overweight to be high in cholesterol. They can be skinny like a rail, but then high in cholesterol because it's dampness. And also protect your DNA so you don't deteriorate when you eat fermented food. What else? Just now, Mark told me that he actually made all these products. A lot of things actually incidentally happen, and then they've actually produced a better product. But to me, nothing is accidental. Okay, to me, it's like a guidance from who knows, spirit. Like natto was accidentally invented by a monk, like a Japanese monk. They put a bunch of those sun-dried soybean on top of a dry straw in the barn, and all of a sudden they went back in there for a few days and saw the soybean got fermented. They become slimy, and those slimy, the strand of that, right? Those are the good bacteria. When you eat natto, it actually prevent you from getting blood clots. You guys know blood clots, right? Blood clots actually happen early in the morning. That's why before you go to bed, you should drink a glass of water. Warm water, okay, guys, not cold water. So that's why Japanese eat natto in the morning. That's why. I know some people say, oh, natto, it looks slimy and yucky. Actually, good for just fold it into your rice. You don't even know it. Now, the natto you get in the Asian market, some of them, the sauce that you put in natto, it has MSG, okay, guys? Be careful. I would buy the natto, toss out the sauce, and make my own sauce. That's what I do. I use fish sauce. My fish sauce smell. Now, some people say, I can't eat fermented food because it's so smelly. Not any more smelly than, a hamburger. To me, a hamburger is smelly because of the oil. Can you smell the stinky smell in hamburger? I can. When you have good gut flora, you can smell any chemicals in the food, any impurities in the food. You can. How much time do I have? I don't want to be rude. Oh, okay. So if you eat natto, it actually takes away your blood clots to prevent blood clots. You don't wait till you have blood clots to do the treatment, right? You prevent. You don't wait till you're old to do it. You prevent now. That's why I always tell my clients I've been practicing TCM for a long time. I always tell my clients, you know what? I'm getting ready for my menopause. They're like, menopause? Back then I was in my 20s. How old are you? I was like, well, I know that it's not going to happen till like my 50s, but I'm not going to wait till then because, I still have many, many years to go, but I'm going to invest in my health right now. You don't wait till you're sick, right? You don't wait till you're old. So all in all, American people should incorporate fermented food more and more, especially in school. Kids won't know better. Kids are brought up with stuff. They don't know. When you give them fermented food since they're little, they would like it. I mean, kids would know about sweets. They like sweet because they were brought up knowing that they're given sweet. So if you start them from little, you give them fermented food, they would not know better. They just eat it like it's normal food. They won't know better. Vegans, vegetarians, they should all eat fermented food. Like elderly people, now we know elderly people have really weak 正气, we call it 正气 means positive qi, right? Because they're more elderly, their kidney qi is weaker than a young person. So if they eat fermented food, they don't get tired. They don't get a shortness of breath when they talk. They don't get Alzheimer's, okay guys? Alzheimer's diseases is not as high it's not as rampant in Asia comparing to here. That protects you from getting Alzheimer's. So you won't be like 60 years old. Who are you again? I said I am Sue. Turn around 5 minutes later, who are you again? Have you seen people like that? Yeah. I mean, can you give them fermented diet and they get better? Possibly. Very, very likely. Because you know why? Before I close this conversation. Because your mind is connected to your microbe in your gut. Okay? If you just treat their Alzheimer's disease, giving them drugs, it's not going to work. You have to treat from the gut. Give them fermented diet, you see a huge difference. ADD, ADHD kids, give them fermented food, they all calm down because of gut flora. So thank you guys for letting me rant here. I hope this helps you, okay? And I'd like to check with you guys if you are interested. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to put up the slide with all her info, but nothing's moving. So maybe Logan can put that up. So I want you just to consider, how you're going to integrate better minerals, better vitamins, better ferments into your lifestyle. And once I can, the information will come up. You have access, obviously, to me, but also to Dr. Jin. And I want to thank Marcella and I want to thank Dr. Jin for sharing and educating what I consider just a very root, that was a cause of disease, which is just a lack of whole foods, biologically active foods. So thank you so much.